All right, so this is Unit 6, Lesson 1. We're looking at situation and solution equations for adding and subtracting. So we're just going to write situation and solution equations to solve some problems. Realize that those are like algebraic equations when you say situation, and then the solution equation comes as you get your variable or your unknown on one side. So we're going to use a break apart drawing to explain that and show that, and then we'll solve some real world problems with whole numbers, decimals, and fractions using those situation and solution equations. Okay, so to start off, we have the situation equation that just shares the information exactly the way it's written in the problem with a variable somewhere in that equation, and then the solution equation solves the problem. So last night, 312 people attended an early showing of a theater movie. How many people attended the late showing? If the total attendance for both showings was 961 people. So you could break that apart and say, okay, my total is 961 up here at the top, and then 312 came at the early, but I don't know how many people attended the late show. So the number of people who attended the first showing is known, right? It's 312. The situation equation that represents the equation is 312 plus n representing the late show, equals 961. Now, so that n being in the middle is what makes it a situation equation. The solution equation then is when we use inverse operation to actually solve. So n equals 961 minus 312. So now you can actually go through and solve your equation. So if you actually subtract out 961, line up your place values, 312. If you want to pause the video and take care of that, you could. Got to do a little borrowing here. Make that 11, 9, all right, 4, 6. So how many people went to the late showing? 649. Don't forget your label, people. All right. So an equation to solve the problem and draw a model if we need to for these next ones. So we're going to write those situation and solution equations. Okay. A shopper spent $53.50 for a sweater and a t-shirt. What was the cost of the sweater if the cost of the t-shirt was $16.50? So my situation equation would be $16.50 plus S for sweater equals $53.50. Okay. Well, now my solution equation then would be S equals $53.50 minus $16.50. Okay. And then when I solve that out, S equals $37. Okay. And really I should have dollars on all of these probably. Okay. Okay, we're going to get a little bit more complicated because we're now adding mixed numbers here. Jaylene had 4 2/3 pounds of modeling clay and used 3.5 pounds for a craft project. How many pounds of clay were not used? Okay, this one it's pretty hard to do a situation equation. I guess you would do addition again, and naturally I'm sure you guys want to just subtract these two numbers right away. You would be correct, but if you were doing a situation equation, you would go 4 2/3 equals 3 1/2 plus clay, right? Some clay. So clay equals 4 2/3 minus 3 1/2. Okay, remember when we add and subtract fractions, we need a common denominator. So the first thing I need to do is change and get those common denominators to subtract out. So 4 2/3, I'm going to make that 4 and 4, 6. Okay, minus 3 and 3, 6. Okay, 4, 6 minus 3, 6 is 1 6. 4 minus 3 is 1, so 1 1/6 pounds. LBS represents pounds, remember? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and skip forward. This one's just a decimal one. If you guys want to try that out for some more practice, great. Okay, so write an equation to solve the problems and draw a model if you need. Same things here. Just thinking about adding and subtracting. I'm actually going to do, because I think that the fraction ones are a little bit more challenging for you guys than the decimals. Just make sure you're lining up those decimals. I'm going to go and do number 6. Enrique has 2 packages to mail. The weight of one package is 12 1/4 pounds. The weight of the second package, what is the weight of the second package if the total weight is 15 1/8 pound? So it would be 12 1/4 plus P equals 15 1/8. Changing that around, 15 1/8 minus 12 1/4 equals P. Okay, we need a common denominator. All I have to change is the fourths, because fourths can go to 8. So I'm going to take 15 1/8, and I'm going to subtract out 12 2/8. Okay, I can't do this, so I need to borrow. This becomes a 14. This becomes 9, right? Because 8/8 equals 1 whole, and I borrowed 1 whole. So now 9/8 minus 2/8 is 7/8. And 14 minus 12 is 2. So 2 7/8 pounds LBS again. Okay. This is some reasonable and unreasonable. So let's look at these. Okay, suppose you were asked to add the decimals at the right and you wrote 2 7/100 as your answer without using a pencil and paper to actually add the decimals. Why is that not a reasonable answer? Well, if you look at the tenths place value, 6 plus 4 is going to be a whole. So somehow they didn't carry. So that's why it's not reasonable. Okay, 4 tenths and 6 tenths makes for 1 whole. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Suppose you were asked to subtract the fractions at the right, and you wrote your answer as 5/6 without using a pencil and paper to actually subtract the fractions. Why is that not a reasonable answer? Well, if I take 1/3 from 1/2, that's not where I'm going to end up. Okay, it's going to produce an answer that's less, right? If I take a half and I take away 1/3 of a half, I'm going to get a smaller number than the half. So it's going to produce a smaller number. Well, 5/6 is more than half, right? Because 3/6 would be half of that fraction. So it's not a reasonable answer. It's not smaller than half. Okay, we'll see you guys in class to practice some of these situation and solution equations.